another episode of the WSL here with your host BV and MV. And boy, did we have a start to this week. We had Damian Lillard getting traded right off the gate. We thought it was going to be a big one. It was. He ends up going to the Bucks with Anta Kumba. And Matt, what does this mean for the league? Everybody now is saying how the Bucks are the favorite to win it all now. What are your thoughts here? Well, yeah, a lot of talk about him wanting to go to Miami and Miami trying to find a way to make it happen. Obviously, that didn't happen that way, but obviously a huge get for the Bucks. I think it's also a huge get for um, Arizona. As Arizona um, picks up some key components that they need to move forward there. Portland picking up Drew Holiday and DeAndre Ayton, and it's said that Portland is looking to move Drew Holiday. Matt, where do you think the best fit for Drew Holiday to go is? I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say that I think the Celtics. No, I'm right there with you. Um, I think Boston probably gives. I think Boston could be absolutely huge in the sense of what they need. They need that other point guard to kind of come in, um, really set the tone and give them some offensive firepower. But you know how much they value their defense and the way that their defense plays. And I think Drew Holiday is would be perfect to engulf that. Going on to the next topic we have. Houston Dynamo wins over Inter Miami for the U.S. Open Cup. Now, all the talk had been on Miami, obviously because of what they did with Messi, and then Messi came in and just dominated the league the way that he did. However, while he was in Argentina, ends up tweaking his hamstring. He's not able to play in the Open Cup Championship. It is his first Cup Championship he's missed in 17 years. Ultimately, Miami falls to Houston. Houston scores by Griffin Dorsey in the 24th minute, get a penalty kick where they score to go up 2-0 there in the 33rd minute. Miami gets their goal in extra time at the very end there, but just a dominating performance by Houston without Messi there. Obviously. If Messi's on the field, it's a different game. How different, we'll never know. But it'll be interesting to see how things play out in the MLS over these next couple of weeks as they continue to make their playoff pushes, and then to see what Miami could do in the playoffs. So got the Messi magic. Going on to the next thing that we've got. It's actually going on right now. We could talk about the Ryder Cup. Now, early in the Ryder Cup, obviously, Europe came out with an absolute dominant performance. I mean, they took it to the US to the point where a lot of US fans have not watched anything past Friday. But I'm telling you, if you missed yesterday's afternoon matches in the four ball, being able to see what Max Homa and Patrick Cantley did on those final stretches was absolutely huge for the US. They give them life, they give them a chance. Now they're coming in 10.5 to 5.5 going into the very last day where we've got 12 one-on-one matches. Uh, the Europe needs 4 points. That can come in the form of 4 wins or 8 ties. Um, and any kind of variety of it. Obviously, the U.S. has to come out in an absolute dominating of performance, but the issue is they have not done that so far today. Going through the matches as of right now, you have Scotty Scheffler is up on John Rahm by 1. Victor Hovland beats Colin Morikawa 4-3, so that's 1 point for Europe. They only need 3 left to win it all. Patrick Cantley's up over Justin Rose by 1. Rory McIlroy is up by 3 over Sam Burns. If he wins one more hole, it's over. Max Homa up over Matt Fitzpatrick by 1. You have Tara Hatton, who just absolutely went off that first day, up by 2 over Brian Harmon. Ludwig Aberg is down by 2 to Brooks Koepka. You have Justin Thomas up by 2 over Step Straka. You have Xander Scheffley and Nikolai Rogard, who are tied through 9. And then Jordan Spieth one up over Shane Lowry. Ricky Fowler and Tommy Fleetwood remain tied through 8. And then rounding it out, Robert McCry is up 3 over Wyndham Clark through 7. So obviously, some big things are going to need to happen moving forward with Europe getting a full point already today. Not looking good. A lot of people were hoping this would be the year that the U.S. gets their first victory on European soil in 30 years. That's not going to be the case. It looks like the home team is going to take it again. This has been a trend that both sides seem to take advantage of as they're coming through. So, Matt, what is your take on Europe coming out extremely hot with Hatton and Rom leading that charge on Friday, and then doing enough to keep a comfort lead yesterday, and then obviously looking like they're going to end up putting this thing away now. Well, and that's what they talked about. That's what they talked about all week was that the fact that the Europe, based off of their analytics, said that we are better with driver in hand than the U.S. They said the U.S. is better with their wedges, but they are better from 180 to 220 yards. So they picked a golf course that does two things. One, they've got all those par threes in between that range of 180 to 220 where they believe that they dominate that part of iron play. You have the tees, right, that are all far enough back that leaves you an iron in hand for your second shot on a lot of these par fours. And then the last thing is because these fairways are so narrow and hard to hit, they grew up the rough along the side, making it extremely difficult if you don't hit the fairway. So, using their analytics, they said, we'll be in the fairway more often. Let's penalize you hard for missing the fairway. And then let's put irons in your hands and take wedges out of the US. And it's shown that it's worked. Now, granted, the US takes advantage of it too when they comes back. Um, and to the home course, they do the exact same thing. They look for those big open fairways. They look for shorter par fours that allow them to put wedges in hands because they know the strength of their game. A lot of analytics that go into this, and it's fun to see these guys compete. I'll tell you the most fun that I have watching the Ryder Cup. You look at the way yesterday ended with Patrick Cantley going on to 18. You had the entire U.S. team out there on the side, sitting up there on the hill, cheering him on. They walked down to the green right before he made that 42-foot putt to go birdie and win the hole. The excitement, the energy is nothing like you see in professional golf, except for at the Ryder Cup or President's Cup. It is the only time that you see that kind of camaraderie, that kind of team. The other thing that's impressive to me, or the other thing that I love to watch, is seeing how impressed these other guys get with these top guy shots, right? Rory sitting 25 feet below the green, hits a stinger up over top, little spinner. That thing like just nips, catches, and almost pulls into the hole. And you're watching guys like John Rahm, number three in the world, just absolutely get wowed and amazed with what Rory was able to do with those shots. And being able to see the best in the world get that excited and fired up and just amazed by other shots that the world greats are making, for me, is a lot of fun to see the appreciation of the game. Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's Patrick Cantley's. Well, and absolutely, and all that kinda started there on the 18th hole of the end of yesterday. Patrick Cantley makes a 42-foot putt to put birdie down, leaving Rory and Fitzpatrick both birdie putts to try to tie it. Both of them were difficult putts to make. Neither one did. But when Patrick Cantley made that putt, his caddy starts to celebrate and realized that he walked in front of Rory's line while he was celebrating the putt. Rory didn't seem to mind initially. The caddy, however, for Rory did. And they had a couple of exchange words. Things grew from there. My understanding, though, is that he and Rory had a sit down talk this morning and hashed everything out. They are all professionals at the end of the day that have been doing this for a long time. You got to think they see each other every single week. They work together every single week. Trying to build and maintain those relationships is huge, even in a single person sport. So, be interesting to see if the U.S. can find a way. It's not looking good. It's kind of hard to sit with um, a little bit. Just knowing that we didn't put what I feel to be our best lineup out there. Now, a lot of people are going to talk about Justin Thomas doesn't deserve to be out there after the season he's had, but Justin Thomas has been one of the best Ryder Cup players in the history of the Cup and continued to do so this week. Him and Jordan Spieth were paired up twice, or three times, excuse me. Didn't pull him off, but I tell you this much: it wasn't Justin Thomas that was holding him back. Jordan Spieth just been off his game this week. Justin Thomas has been trying to carry them. Now that he's in singles, like I said before, he's up 2 through 10 now. He is 9-0 in singles play in the Ryder Cup. Going to be absolutely or in cup matches. Dustin Johnson. I agree. I probably would have taken Cameron Young over the way Sam Burns um, has been. Absolutely. And Wyndham Clark hasn't been all that sharp this week either. But he's proven that he can win in big moments. I think he's one you definitely got to take a chance on. Um, but it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. does the rest of the day going into it. As of right now, if everything ended right now, they would lose with a score of 15.5 to 12.5. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about some college football from yesterday. Um, let's real quick, we'll go through some scores, and then we'll talk about some individual games. Number one, Georgia escapes with a win, 27-20 over Auburn. Number 12, Alabama beats Mississippi State, 40-17. Number 20, Ole Miss over 13 LSU, 55-49. We'll dive into that game here shortly. 21, number 21, Tennessee over South Carolina, 41-20. Kentucky takes down number 22 Florida Gators 33-14. Missouri over Vanderbilt. Missouri ranked 23. They win 38-21. Texas A&M over Arkansas 34-22. That's what's happened in the SEC yesterday. Looking at the ACC, you have Louisville over NC State 13-10. Notre Dame over Duke 21-14. What a great game that was. Clemson Syracuse. Clemson wins the Battle of the Oranges 31-14. Boston College over Virginia 27-24. Bowling Green with a big win over Georgia Tech 38-27. Virginia Tech gets their first win of the year, winning 38-21 over Pitt. Big win for V Tech. Um, well, we're getting there. All right, going to the Sun Belt. Minnesota over the Raging Cajun, 35-24. James Madison over South Alabama, 31-23. Arkansas State over Massachusetts, 52-28. Marshall over Old Dominion, 41-35. Georgia Southern over Coastal Carolina, 38-28. Troy takes down Georgia State for their first loss of the year, 28-7. Texas State over Southern Miss, 50-36. And Appalachian State with a walk-off field goal after an absolutely crazy last 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. Well, appreciate it, Matt. um, it was some really good games. A lot of fun to watch yesterday, especially in the Sun Belt play. Going to the Big South. Um, and OVC conferences, you had Howard over Robert Madison, Rhode Island over Bryant, Austin P over Linwood. Charleston Southern beats the rising FBS Kennesaw State. What a huge win for Charleston Southern over Kennesaw State. Eastern Illinois over Northwestern State, and UT Martin over Tennessee State. What's funny, Matt, is Charleston Southern so far this year has played North Greenville, they played Clemson, they played Tennessee Tech, and now Kennesaw State. Um, that Charleston Southern team has two guys that I coached with at North Greenville that are coaching there as the DBs coach and running backs coach. They obviously go against their former players and school that they coached at, and North Greenville have that. They go to Clemson, big matchup there. They go to Tennessee Tech, who the former offense coordinator at North Greenville was there, and then the former defense coordinator at North Greenville is now at Kennesaw State. So those guys, my boys over there at Charleston Southern, have had some friendly faces on the other side of the sideline, and I'm sure that makes things interesting coming in and week out, seeing those guys. Well, and a lot of us worked those Clemson camps and had worked together a couple times, and so those are still guys that you see on a regular basis and get to know really well, especially when you're in the same state within college athletics. Looking at the SoCon real quick, Western Carolina, big win over the Citadel. Their only loss on the year is still to Arkansas. Other than that, they are playing extremely well and are my personal favorites to win the SoCon this year. Sanford takes down ETSU 42-28. Mercer, big win over VMI 38-3. And Chattanooga takes down the Wofford Terriers 23-13. All right. And then the last thing we got is in the Gulf South Conference. For those of you that don't know what the Gulf South Conference is, it is the SEC of Division Two. We're talking about the best Division Two conference in play with some of the very best teams. So looking at what happened yesterday, Mississippi College in their triple option takedown Shorter, 30-14. That was at Shorter in Rome, Georgia. Valdosta State big win over Shawan, 51-36. Delta State blows out West Owl, 47-17. Probably could have been bigger. I think the halftime score was like 37-3. Um, West Florida beats North Greenville 48-24. That was a lot closer game than the score shows. West Florida putting up 21 answered points in 12 minutes, last 12 minutes of the game. It was a 3-point lead that North Greenville couldn't capitalize, and West Florida gets the win there. All right, so now that we've got caught up on some scores, let's talk about some games. And I want to start off by talking about this Georgia Auburn game. Georgia finds a way to win it 27-20. But Matt, for the third week in a row, Georgia seems to win a game that they didn't play well enough to win. Georgia, in my mind, is by far the best team in college football when they're playing on all cylinders. But we haven't seen that. We've looked lost, or they've looked like they've just tried to put it together there in the first half, or just kind of playing enough, playing the competition, whatever it may be. If Georgia continues playing like this, somebody's going to knock them off. They're not going to go for a third national championship in a row because it's almost like they're good enough that they think that I shouldn't say they think, that they just come out flat, play to their opponent, do enough to win, which is fine. A win's a win. But at some point in time, those types of games come back and bite you in the ass at some point. What are your thoughts on Georgia? Absolutely, and I think Auburn played really well. I think Auburn's got a lot of young talent. And obviously with Hugh Freeze there being there in his first year, they've got a lot of building to do and growing to do. But at the same time, I think the future is really high for the Auburn War Eagle Tigers. um, Now, talk about one of the best games of the night now. Number 13 LSU goes into number 20 Old Miss. At halftime, Ole Miss holds a lead 31-28. After the third quarter, there's an 11-point swing into LSU's favor. LSU up 42-34 going into the fourth quarter. Ole Miss scores a quick touchdown as soon as the quarter starts to make the game 42-40. LSU responds with a touchdown of their own, making it 49-40. 8.5 minutes left in the game, thinking there's a good chance it's probably over. Ole Miss goes on a big drive, ends up getting it back into a two-score game, and then with 39 seconds on the clock, Trey Harris has a 13-yard catches a 13-yard pass from Jackson Dart. They get the 2-point conversion and ultimately give us the final score of 55-49. Matt, what's your take on this game? Yeah, that's for both sides. I mean, uh, you would have thought we were watching like a friggin' Big 12 game, the old school Big 12, and just absolutely incredible. Bacon Bits, we love you too, by the way. The but yeah, I mean, if LSU can get one stop, then they win the game. And absolutely amazing um that finish. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Congrats to Ole Miss for that. But neither team is going to be able to make a final push here in the SEC unless they can get that defense together. Um, because there is too much firepower in the SEC for you to play shoddy defense and to win on a regular basis. Just won't, it won't happen. Won't happen. Uh, oh yeah. Yeah, it would have been that would have been extremely devastating there for them. Let's look at the next game here. Going from Jaden Daniels to Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels, quarterback of the Kansas City Jayhawks, did not play yesterday against number 3 Texas. It was listed back tightness was his reason for not being able to play. That was absolutely huge for the Jayhawks because just in his 4 games, he's looking at a 75% completion rating, 705 yards. He's averaging 9.4 yards a completion, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's playing the best that he's ever played in college football. Misses with back tightness. They go into Texas with their backup quarterback. And let me tell you right now, Texas, I'm talking about the real deal. Texas is the real deal there. They dominated that game start to finish. Um, I, I think Texas could really make a push here, and I'm going to tell you why. Their defense is the real deal. Their defense is legit. Those guys fly around the ball. They're looking to do something painful when they get there. They're a lot of fun to watch, and I think that they could really make a push here if they can hold it together and stay healthy. The thing that they need to do is offensively, they need to get more consistent, get into a better rhythm, put some points up on the board more consistently like this, especially as we look at their matchup next week. Absolutely, absolutely. One of the other games that was a lot of fun yesterday didn't start off that way, but turned out to be, at one point in time, number 8 USC was up over Colorado 34-7. Colorado gets touchdown right before the half, taking it to the half 34-14. Um, Colorado did rally back on the shoulders of Shador Sanders. He ends up putting up 27 points in the second half to give them a chance on an onside kick. They obviously did not get it, and USC went on to win with a score of 48-41. But a tremendous effort by the um, Colorado Buffaloes and what they were able to do there. Deion Sanders said after the game that if they would have got that onside kick, they were going to go drive down the field and win the game. He knew it. He had no doubt about it. And honestly, I believe him. I firmly believe that if Shador Sanders had another chance with the ball in his hands, he was going to go take that team into the end zone and go win that game. Mainly for two reasons. One, USC's defense is a Pac-12 defense. Two, when the lights come on, Shador Sanders can flat out play. He may not have the guys around him. Travis Hunter and Shiloh Sanders both out yesterday. Obviously, Shiloh plays defense, but two huge components of their team, both missing in action yesterday as they went on to go do that. But Colorado is the real deal. I'm extremely impressed with what Dion's doing over there. A lot of people are skeptical and maybe don't like the way he handles things. But I'm going to tell you this right now: the thing that I can tell from watching Dion Sanders and seeing how he goes about it, yeah, sure, he's going to have a little bit more flash. He's going to say some controversial things. He's going to do things his own way. But at the end of the day, I can tell you two things. One, he loves those kids. He absolutely loves those kids that are fighting their nuts off for him. It shows in his press conferences. It shows in the videos. It shows in the way that the kids respond to him. There is a lot of love in that building, and I think a lot of people miss that because of the way Dion goes about his business. But don't get it twisted. Don't make it a misunderstanding. There is a lot of love going on in that building, and I think that that shows when that team hits the field on Saturdays. And two, that team has a lot of confidence. They got a lot of swagger, and I think that's the biggest thing that Dion tries to bring in there. He did a lot of dogs. And He you saw that when he went to Jackson State. Obviously, he brought in some good players in Jackson State, and obviously he brought in some good players to Colorado. But the biggest thing that he's been able to do over his time at both places is give that team the confidence they need to go out there and perform at a high level and not be afraid to make mistakes. And that says a lot about Dion that I don't think a lot of people recognize or see. They see what he did with the overhaul, and they see him talking. They say with the video cameras and all this and that. What Colorado's doing is extremely impressive. Needs to be recognized. Needs to be understood, and he needs to be given the respect that he has deserved so far in this season, taking Colorado from a one-win team last year to 3-2, obviously taking down the former runner-up national champs, taking USC to the wire. Obviously, Oregon last week was a huge blowout, but I think the way that they responded after being down huge in this first half shows the maturity and the growth that this team took, and the big step that they took going into this week. I mean, I was worried about them after watching how they played against Arizona State. Um, and not to take away from what Arizona State's doing over there, but USC should absolutely dominate that game, put it away, no question about it. And they let them hang in. They let them continue to fight, and it's it's going to be extremely interesting how this plays out for USC from here. And the biggest reason I say that, Matt, is you look at their upcoming schedule. They've got Arizona next week, which they should win pretty handily. But you've got a very good Notre Dame team that they've got to go into South Bend to play. Then with a veteran quarterback, then comes to them. Very good football team. They've got Cal, but then they've got number 7 Washington, and then they go to Eugene to take on number 9 Oregon. They've got a lot of test up ahead. I'm not sure right now that I've got the confidence in USC to say that they're going to pass all of those tests. Especially that Notre Dame game is going to be really tough. I mean, all of them. That Utah's playing tremendously, Washington's playing tremendously, Oregon's playing tremendously. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what'll happen. But I do not have a lot of confidence in USC making the college football playoffs this year. Let's go on to the last game we're going to talk about tonight. It was my game of the week. Looking at this week, it was number 9 Notre Dame going in to number 17 Duke. What a tremendous game that was. Duke or Notre Dame scores a touchdown with 31 seconds left. Um, to go up 21-14. They're trying to set up the field goal. Sam Hartman on a huge fourth down scrambles, gets the first, shows why he's the veteran that he is, does a tremendous job leading them down. They get in, they're trying to center the ball for a game winning field goal, and they ends up breaking one for a full touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion, go up 21-14 after being down by one. Duke trying to make a late push. Riley Leonard gets sacked and stripped, and the game is over. Biggest thing there, um, coming from Duke, is what's Riley Leonard's status? He finished the game laying on the ground, holding his ankle. You can see it getting rolled up under the Notre Dame defender. His big 300-pound body. He was screaming in pain. It did not look good. If he goes down, I don't know if this Duke team, the magic may be over for this year. Um, they once again, it doesn't get easier from here for them. But what's your thoughts, Matt? Yeah, it did. Yeah, there's no word on Leonard's injury as this point. He did come out on crutches and go across the field. But we wish the best for him. Um, the biggest thing I think a lot of people forget watching college athletics is that these guys are kids. Tomorrow morning he's got to get up and go to class, and he's going to go spend all day in class, and then go have to watch film and kind of get back on kind of going through all that. But there's a lot of people that take this stuff extremely seriously, and they are detrimental to a lot of these kids and the way that they respond to things. You hear these NFL players. You talk about the racism that has brought to light via some of the DMs that some of these players were receiving because of their fantasy performances. Um, and it's heartbreaking to see some of that. So when a guy like Sam Hartman, who is unquestionably the leader of Notre Dame. He's got some of the most respect of any quarterback playing in college football today with what he did at Wake Forest and the way he handles himself and the way that he goes about his business. Massive props to him for his sportsmanship, his leadership, and being a good reminder to all sports fans out there, especially college sports fans, that these guys are kids. Um, and not to forget that. People want to talk about that hit on Travis Hunter 2 weeks ago. Once again, that's a kid. Went to the hospital, stayed the night, had to go to class that Monday morning. Like a lot of people forget this. A lot of people think that they have it handed to them, and don't get me wrong, a kid at Notre Dame is going to have it a lot better than a kid at a Division II school from a just from a money standpoint and what's able to be provided. But at the end of the day, they're all college kids, and that cannot be forgotten or lost. That these are just 18 to 22-year-old kids trying to figure it out. 100%. Absolutely, absolutely. Quick look to next week's games. Number 11 Notre Dame goes in to Louisville. Louisville has been on absolute fire as of late. They are 5-0. I would imagine they'll probably slide into one of those late 20 slot rankings going into next week. Um, Honestly, I don't think as good as Louisville's been playing, I don't think that Hartman will be beat again this year. You saw the fire he had. You saw the way that he was able to respond after the Ohio State game, which was an absolute heartbreaker for them. But that should be a fun game to watch. You've got Kentucky, who's still undefeated and still somehow not ranked. They, I imagine, will be ranked by next week as well, going into Georgia. I'm telling you right now, if Kentucky plays like Kentucky has been playing and Georgia plays like Georgia has been playing, the Wildcats could get their first win in Athens in a long, long time. You've got the undefeated um, Ohio State taking on the undefeated Maryland. That'll be in Columbus. Then I would imagine Maryland will probably be ranked after this week as well. And then number 14, Oklahoma going to number 3, Texas. The all-state Red River rivalry, absolutely huge. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I hope it is just absolutely a barn burner all the way to the end. Matt, what are your thoughts on these games coming up next week? Yeah, no, that'll be a good game as well. I I think there's Taylor mentioned it yesterday. For those of you that don't know, my wife Taylor, she, my wifey, and let's put that down. 3-month wifey. Uh, but she mentioned it the other day. She went to Clemson and she was at Clemson in the height of their national championship run. But she mentioned, she said, it's nice to see some other teams up there in the top 25. And and I agree, it's good to see Florida State back in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? That's good for college football. And Texas, right? That's good for college football. But exactly. So some with like some very storybook histories, and then they had some low years and they're coming back. But if you want to talk about some of the all-time greats being in the top 25, how good is it to see USC back, Miami, right, Notre Dame, Michigan, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma? Like, these are storybook college football. Like, there's so much history ingrained into those programs, and to see them firing on all cylinders and coming back into that is a lot of fun to see. But on top of that, you've got schools like North Carolina Tar Heels, right? Mizzou, Washington State, Kansas getting in there. Like we said before, Kentucky should be ranked after this week. Maryland should be ranked after this week. You have Oregon State with a killer win last yesterday. So you've got these other teams that haven't necessarily had the same history that are fighting into it. But the point that she made is it's good to see some change up. And I think that's absolutely huge for the sport. I love to see the competition. I love to see, um, dominance tested, and love to see the underdog story make a big push. So, um, a lot of fun this year in college football. All right. Probably. Same. Like Kentucky over Georgia, I think is the biggest upset here. I think Louisville's a very good football team this year, and I think that they're doing tremendous things there, especially with the new coaching staff coming in. I don't see them beating Sam Hartman. Oklahoma, Texas. I don't like Texas is going to be favored on paper, but I don't think you can say that either one of them's a dark horse to win that game. It's going to be a battle till the very end. Great game there. Maryland going into Ohio State. I think once again is going to be a really good game, but Ohio State just has too much firepower on that offense for Maryland to be able to keep up with, in my opinion. But if Georgia comes out like they had the last couple weeks and Kentucky can pounce, right? They've got to, that's a Wildcat reference for you there. They have got to come out of the gates early. They've got to come out strong. They've got to put points up on the board and put the pressure on Georgia to respond, because here's the thing. Georgia has responded, but I don't know how much I trust their offense right now. If you can get them down and force them to get out of their game plan, I think we'll see Kentucky upset Georgia. 100%. 100%. Absolutely. Um, A lot of fun to see. It's exciting to see what's going to end up happening there. Um, and honestly, I absolutely cannot wait. All right, so let's change things up a little bit. Matt, if you've got the stream pulled up, I'm gonna show you I did a little something something. Prepared for this. Boom. Now, I do this for all the games. It's a work in progress. I'm making templates. We're gonna get there. But let's talk about the Thursday night games. Detroit goes into Green Bay. Green Bay goes down 27-3 at the half. They make a big push, ultimately falling to the Lions 34-20. Um, what a game there, Matt. The Lions are legit. All right. And I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. If they keep performing the way they are going to be a fit for anybody in the NFC and have the best chance to win the NFC North. This is the best Lions team that I think I've ever seen since Barry Sanders. And even then, the team itself is still so much better than the Barry Sanders era. Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%. There's no doubt about it. They are legit, and can do some big things. Um, but I tell you my biggest takeaway from this game. There's a name I'm going to throw out here. Quay Walker. You remember him? You remember what happened last year? Why don't you refresh us? He's the one that pushed the trainers, right? At the Lions are there. They're in Lambeau. He comes up and he's pushing the trainers out of the way and just being a complete ass and just a complete tool. Green Bay makes a absolutely monster stop. A monster third down stop. Lions are going to have to kick a field goal. It's going to be 20 or it's going to be 30-20, and then the Green Bay still gets a chance to keep on fighting. And this friggin' dummy here, and I use that term very, very intentionally because I don't call people dummies, but I'm calling Quay Walker a freaking dummy because he can't keep his shit together long enough for them to be able to go win a game because he loses his friggin' mind and gets a running start and goes and jumps over the long snapper trying to go block that damn kick. That shit's been outlawed for years. It's nothing new. It was the same way when he was in college. Same exact rule. He knew it. And at some point in time, he's going to cost his team so much that it doesn't matter what he's doing on the field, that they're going to move on from him. Now, at the same time, when you play like that for the majority of the time, when you play as well as he can play, then of course he's a tremendous player. But he has got to get his crap together. Um, well, they were also down 27-3 at one point in time. So I mean, absolutely. Mhm. No, I'm with you. Biggest thing is they've got to hold it together early on so they can run the ball. But it's hard to run the ball when you're down 27-3 at half. Um, but as somebody that has Jordan Love on their fantasy team, then we're absolutely loving it. Actually, Matt, before we go on to our next thing, let's talk about our fantasy league for a second, right? The old assholes anonymous league going on right here. Um, AA for quitters. That's me. AA is for quitters. Finally gets first win of the season. Friggin' Matt over here wants to be first in his division for some reason. Like that's any fun. Who wants that? Rexy and I know it. Friggin' yeah, this friggin' dummy. Man, but I tell you, we did a auction draft in our league, and it's been a ton of fun. I've got 12 people in it, and it's a little different than what you'd normally see, um, in the sense of how um, the scoring is done and the playoff situation. And so far, it's been a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed it. Right now, Rexy and I know it, aka Matt is down to CTE City. Uh, still early, still early. Absolutely. I wanted to talk crap yesterday, but not yesterday, Thursday. Yeah, on the bench, but he had Montgomery on the roster, and he had him on, so they switched him, and ended up on the bench. Yeah, yeah, he would have dominated. Oh man. Well, going into our next game, I actually just pulled it up so I could see what it looks like in old Andy's room. Over on, are you got the actual game or the Toy Story? There you go. I haven't either. It's pretty crazy. So for those of you who don't know, Jacksonville and Atlanta are playing in Wembley Stadium in England. Game started at 9:30 Eastern time, and you can find that game over on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. On Disney Plus, it is in the form of Toy Story. with Toy Story characters in Andy's room. It is absolutely incredible with what they're being able to do in real time with the animation of this because it is so much better than I thought it would be. Jacksonville leads that game 7-0 with the ball at the start of the second quarter. Matt, obviously, Atlanta has been playing well enough to win, um, even though they've had some issues at quarterback. And Jacksonville, even though they should be winning, they are not playing well enough to win. Um, a lot of people thought Jacksonville was going to be the favorites out of the AFC South, be able to make a push into the playoffs, make a little bit of a run, especially adding Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence coming on the way that he did. The picture that's actually pulled up right now showing me the score of the game shows him like he lifted a little bit of weights this summer. About time, little gingerbread man. Um, Sunshine. But hell of a quarterback and when he's on the money. So Calvin Ridley, finally shows up. He's the one that got the touchdown earlier to give them the 7-point lead. Jacksonville just kicked a field goal to make it 10-0. And Matt, what are your thoughts on Atlanta and Jacksonville, both in this game and moving forward in the season? It it'd be interesting to see. Jacksonville leads the league in drop passes. 7% of the passes that have been thrown by Trevor Lawrence have been dropped. And that's a big issue. That's a big problem for the Jaguars, considering that last year they were the worst team in the NFL, or third worst team in the NFL with drop passes, dropping 6% of the balls thrown. They got to get some receivers that can catch the damn ball because you're getting paid too much to let those balls go through your hands and not be able to do anything with. So let's go on to some games happening this afternoon. We're going to start off with the Broncos and the Bears. The team of we've got 0-3 versus 0-3. dog shit versus dog shit. We've got the battle for Caleb Williams, who's going to throw it away the most to make it happen. And on top of that, the Bears are going to be without Chase Claypool for this game, who is extremely frustrated, as reports say, about having to miss. But that's a big blow for the Bears, losing one of his top wideouts there. A lot of pressure is going to be put on DJ Moore to come through and to find a way to help them win. Matt, what are your thoughts on the game? Well, yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think the biggest talk, everybody wants to talk about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I think the thing that's not being talked about enough is how bad these defenses are, right? The Broncos have averaged giving up 469 yards per game. Now, granted, I know Miami just absolutely lathered it on and just slapped him in the face with just the biggest slap of face slapping that you can absolutely have in the NFL. But the Bears are also giving up 410 yards a game. I, I don't know if either offense is good enough to score any points, but I sure know neither defense is good enough to stop any points being scored. So, if one of them can just manage to run without tripping, they may be able to make it into the end zone. Um, because obviously they've got bigger gaping holes than friggin' bay windows in their defense, and just the friggin' Grand Canyon just opens up anytime the opposing team wants to run the ball down their throat. So it'll be interesting to see who responds. I'm still not hating on the Russell Wilson Sean Payton matchup. I think that there's still a lot of potential there. I think that there's still a chance that they could figure this thing out. Sean Payton is one of the greatest coaches in the modern day era for a reason. Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl champion. We cannot forget those things. They both have been there. They both have done it. They are both trying to figure each other out inside of a new scheme. And I don't think that either one of them are the current problem for the Broncos. You know who I think the current problem for the Broncos is? Guess what? It's the freaking defense. There you go, Zach. That's for you, buddy. Because I know that you want to believe in your Broncos, even though they suck. All right. Absolutely insane. Let's go on to the next game of the week. We've got Minnesota going in to the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, it is a huge shock to see Minnesota 0-3 at the start of this year. Um, Obviously, the biggest storyline of the day is Adam Thielen goes to face the Vikings after he was released from 10 years of service to the Vikings. The 32-year-old is absolutely amped up for this. He was released because of a contract issue. He was going to be owed $20 million this year. That was going to kill their salary cap, and did not think that it was going to be um, worth it for them. And so, absolutely tremendous get for the Panthers. I said last week that I thought Andy Dalton was going to go off for the Panthers. I still firmly believe he did, just not enough there to get it done against the Seahawks. Thought that he did a wonderful game. Bryce Young is expected to be back this week as Andy Dalton goes back to the bench. Uh, Hopefully, as the obvious Panther fan I am, Bryce Young comes out swinging. I hope he's healthy. I hope he's feeling good. I hope he's ready to run around for his life because the Vikings front seven um, is pretty legit right now as well. Even though um, you would be surprised to see that within the rankings. Biggest issue the Vikings are having right now is they are tied for 21st in the league in red zone touchdowns and 26th in goal to go situations with 5 touchdowns and 9 opportunities. That doesn't bode well for the Vikings, knowing that they've got one of the stiffest defenses in the league. Right, this offense for the Panthers may be struggling to try to find a way to get a win and to consistently put points on the board, but this Carolina defense has not struggled at all. And the Vikings have fumbled a league high 7 times. They've lost every single one of them. Um, and if the Panthers keep playing the way they are and keep moving up forward, then I think they could surprise some people because not many people, if any, think the Panthers have any chance of pulling this out. You have to because of the most talent that they have. They've got the most talent out of any of the 4 offenses, but they're making mistakes, and I think the biggest thing to see is that the mistakes they're making are correctable ones or ones that can be fixed, but they're also momentum mistakes. And so if they can get some confidence against somebody, they'll go on a run. I have no doubt about it. The Viking offense has been struggling. I think their defense has to step up. But if you were to ask me the teams that would bet to make the playoffs out of the 4 losing teams, in order, it would be the Vikings, the Broncos, the Panthers, and the Bears. And I know people are going to say I'm insane for choosing the Broncos, who just lost, gave up 70 freaking points, but they have something there if they can get something clicking. I think the Panthers have a lot of talent there in the offense if they can get some confidence at the quarterback position and get some things clicking. Everybody wants to talk about what lack receivers the Panthers have. They are fine in the receiver game. Are they dominant? No, they're not Tyreek Hill and Jaden Waddle, but they are fine and good enough to win games in this league. The defense is good enough to win games in this league. The biggest thing you're seeing from the Panthers right now is I think that they are playing too conservative. They're too afraid to allow Bryce Young to make mistakes. They're trying to hold him back. They're trying to hold back the reins. They're trying to be, and I know they're trying to be smart with it and build up his confidence, but you can't take away what Bryce Young does and what makes Bryce Young Bryce Young. And, if you can put him in a situation to go win a game, I think he has the confidence in himself. He's done it multiple times as a young player. And I think you'll see that in this league. Obviously, I think one of the biggest questions that the Panthers are going to have to ask is everybody was worried about Bryce Young's um, durability coming into the NFL, being all 4'2" and 100 pounds that he is. And then obviously he misses the third game of his NFL career coming back for week 4. But that's going to be a big question asked for moving forward. Um, but Matt, and I hope that's what, especially when you have a veteran like Andy Dalton on the bench that you can go to. Um, he plays 100%. 100%. But from a play calling standpoint, I hope to see more attempted explosive plays from the Panthers, whether they work or not. Would like to see at least 2 or 3 big time shots being taken throughout the game. Now, let me ask you this, Matt. We've talked about the 4 unwinning teams. um, which out of the 4 are you the most worried about with their 0-3 start? No, no. We always had a saying when I was coaching that what happens in the family stays in the family. If you've got issues, come talk to the coaches, come talk to the players, but that doesn't belong in the media. And so, and I know for a fact every single one of these NFL teams has media training with their players to try to prevent things like this because they become distractions and they become stories taken away. Look back at the Ryder Cup with Patrick Cantley. He doesn't go out and wear a hat, and these stories start circulating about he's not wearing a hat because he's protesting that players should get paid at the Ryder Cup. And this is his way to protest. And him and Scheffler are planning a coup and all this, or not Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. And after yesterday, they asked, was like, hey, we got to ask, what's going on with the hat? Why aren't you wearing a hat? He goes, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. So you've got people that are creating stories, right, already to try to divide teams. when those stories are straight up coming out of players' mouths, you've got some big issues. Because you lose because when other people are making up stories about you or just saying stories about you that maybe have some truth or a little bit of truth, or you can see where they got that from, at the end of the day, that locker room is going to rally together and look and say, hey, this is a us against the world mentality. But when it's us versus us, you're never going to be a solid team. I'm with you. I think the Bears are exactly that's us versus us, and it's not an effective play for anybody involved. It's not going to bring any benefit. We've got a lot of people that want to bitch and moan instead of try to go find a way to win a game, understanding that it's 0-3, not 0-12. Like you still have a chance to be able to bounce back from this. I think it's a long shot, but I think you've got a chance to be able to bounce back from this if you can rally and pull it together. But I'm with you. I just don't see it coming from the Bears. Um, so let's move on to our next game of the. This may be the game of the week. It's one that I'm probably most excited to see. You have the high scoring Dolphins going in to face division rival Buffalo Bills. They have lost 7 in a row in Buffalo. Is this the year that Miami finally gets a win in New York? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'm with you there. I think the Bills defense is going to have to come up huge. You look at the Dolphins; they have the number one overall offense in the league, the number one rushing attack in the league, number one passing attack in the league, and the number one scoring attack in the league. But when you look over at the Bills defense, they're number two overall in defense, 14th overall in rushing. They got to get better at the run game, especially with the way that Miami ran the ball last week. Number three in passing and number two in scoring. So you're still talking about a very stiff defense. Here's where the flip is, right? Miami's offense is extremely overpowered, right? No doubt about it. There's a reason they're the number one offense in the league. But the Bills' offense is just as powerful. They rank number seven in offense, number seven in rushing, number 12 in passing, and number two in scoring, only behind the Dolphins, number one in scoring. But you look at the Dolphins' defense, number 23 overall in defense, number 24 in the rush, number 20 in the pass, and number 21 in scoring. I think it's a matchup that favors the Bills, but you cannot deny the hot streak and the confidence that Miami has going into it. One of the big things to keep in mind is Jalen Waddle. Practiced full on Wednesday and has been cleared from concussion protocol after missing the one game from his helmet to helmet hit against Jalen Phillips. Um, it'll be interesting to see if he comes back, how that adds to them and what they do. I think one of the things not to be forgotten is the last time these guys faced was January 15th in the AFC wild card when the Bills beat the Dolphins 34 to 1. The Bills are 11 and 2 in their past 13 matchups against the Dolphins. Matt, the last time that the Dolphins won in Buffalo, Rex Ryan was the head coach of Buffalo. So it's been a while. Um, it's not January. It's that is very, very true. But this should be a fun game. Excited to see what ends up happening. All right. Absolutely. Keep an eye on that game. You can catch that game at 1 o'clock on CBS. Going to the next game, you have the former Cleveland Browns versus the current Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens going into Cleveland. Obviously, obviously, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson and does what Lamar Jackson does. He is a tremendous player, a tremendous athlete, one of the top quarterbacks in the league, regardless of what any kind of shade people want to throw at him. But I'm going to throw this out there, and Matt, tell me your thoughts. Are the Browns the best defense in the NFL right now? 100%. Now, Deshaun Watson is also questionable for this game. I would imagine that he will play. I do not see him staying on the bench for this game. Obviously, Baltimore probably dealing with the most injuries out of anybody else in the league. They've got a ton of guys out for this game, including Odell, obviously J.K. Dobbs out for the year, and a number of other key players moving forward. Deshaun Watson dealing with the shoulder. Is expected to play. David Njoku um, burned both his face and his arm in a household incident and is listed questionable for the game. We hope that he is doing all right. Yeah, probably. But we hope that he is doing all right and um, good enough to be able to come back and play today. A lot of people want to talk about Clowney and after the ugly release that he had from the Browns, they didn't think he was doing enough, didn't think he was worth it, and goes to the Ravens and has been having a stellar season so far. He goes back into Cleveland with a little bit of fire in his ass, and I know he is excited to play that game. We're running a little bit low on time, so we're going to get through these last games rather quickly. We have the Commanders going in to Philadelphia. Philadelphia, obviously, playing lights out right now. Um, just going off from an offensive standpoint. Um, the biggest concern I have for the Eagles right now is their passing defense. Their rush defense has remained flawless and, compares to the Browns. Um, from a defensive standpoint, but I really worry about the Eagles' pass rush and how the secondary can hold up, especially when you're talking about a Washington team that is struggling a little bit offensively, but definitely has some weapons that can hurt you in the pass game if they can get some time and allow Sam Howell to make some good decisions. Right now, his biggest hiccup is that he has 5 interceptions in the first 3 games. You cannot do that and expect to win games. And now, and don't forget, last year when the Eagles started off 8-0, their first loss of the year came to Washington in Philadelphia. They lost 32-21 last year, November 14th. Another fun stat about this game, Matt, this will be the very first meeting between the teams since the Philadelphia 76 owners Josh Harris led a group to purchase the Commanders from Dan Snyder for $6.05 billion. You're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers owner going in to Philadelphia with his Washington Commanders. You got to think that the Philadelphia hopeful and the Philadelphia fan base has got to be fired up for this game. Yeah, if they win, they may start boycotting the Sixers. Granted, the Sixers, are kings at shooting themselves in the foot anyway. Um, so maybe the Eagles will do that today, and Washington comes out with a surprise win. You can catch that game at 1 o'clock on Fox. At 4:25, also on Fox, you have the Bucks going in to New Orleans. Both teams are 2-1. Both of them looking very different than they have the last 2 years. And now you have Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston, who, if you would have looked at both of them coming out of college, you would have thought that they were both going to go on to be Hall of Famers. They were both Heisman Trophy winners. They're both #1 overall team for their classes, #1 picks overall. Neither one is with the team that drafted them. Neither one was expected to start this season, but both of them find them in the driving seat. Um, and looking forward to this game, Matt, what are your thoughts with the Bucks and the Saints? Derek Carr, I believe, is out for this game. Yes, they do. No, I do not. I do not. I do not. But he is sitting in somebody's bench. He's been there since the start. I tried picking him up. But I might give my boy Rodney Evans a shout out because this is his guy that he lives and dies with. Alvin Kamara coming back off a suspension. What's that mean for the Saints, Matt? No, absolutely. And the Bucks have been the number one team in the NFL in forcing turnovers since Tampa Bay hired Bowles as defense coordinator 4 years ago, and then obviously promoted him to head coach. Now, the other thing I think to keep in mind with this game is being able to see Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore get back at it. The last two times these guys have played each other, it's ended in some pushing and some shoving and some talking, and um, it's little pointing, little pointing. um, but I think one of the biggest things is the Bucks had the worst rushing attack in the NFL last season, and they are averaging 78 yards per game on the ground so far. The good thing is I think that they have a better chance of winning this game in the air anyway, but they are going to need to run the ball so much better than they did last week. Because last week they ran the ball 17 times and only got 4 yards against the number one rush defense in the league in Philadelphia. So it'll be a fun game to see. Looking forward to that. Let's go to the Patriots versus the Cowboys. 1-2 Patriots taking on the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys. Matt, what are your takeaways for this game? Obviously, you have Zeke Elliott is the big news, right? Going back to Dallas. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they go. You know, they on paper they should have one of the best defenses in the league, and I think they've been struggling a little bit, and especially in the run game compared to where they would like to be. And pass game wise, they've been absolutely unflappable with that pass rush, and they're locked down in the secondary. I think if the Patriots are going to win this game, they've got to do a better job of running it on the ground. Let's go to our next game, Matt. The Monday Night Football game. We've got the Steelers versus the Texans. This is an interesting matchup because if it was any other time over the last 25 years, if you asked me since Houston came into the league who was going to win a Pittsburgh Steeler Houston Texans matchup, unquestionably, there would have been only one answer every single time. This is one of the first times that I think that the Houston Texans could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say that before we even start the game. And a lot of that has to do with the Steelers' defense is not the Steelers' defense of old. They're not playing very well. They're averaging giving up 411 yards per game, 152 of those coming on the ground, 260 of those coming in the air. They can't rush the ball worth a crap, averaging 67 yards per game. Granted, Houston hasn't been able to run the ball worth a crap either, but I'll tell you the difference in it, and that's CJ Stroud. The rookie has come out. He's 78 for 121 for 906 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He is gone. He has the longest streak of any NFL rookie to not throw an interception. He has a couple big receivers in Nico Collins and Tank Dell that have just been coming on like crazy. Um, and the Texans team is showing that these changes they made in the draft is paying dividends not 5 years down the road, but today. I do not think Stroud should be overlooked this week. He scored 20 plus fantasy points in 2 consecutive games. Him and Nico Collins and Tank Dell are just really coming together. He's the first player in league history to have at least 900 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions in his first 3 career starts. Big game for that. So their latest news is that there still is a chance that Derek Carr could play, but Jameis Winston has taken the majority of the reps this week. It would still be a surprise if Carr does play, but there is a potential that he could. Um, Now, let's go to some of the fun part of the week. For some, anyway. Last week, Matt came away 8-1 in his picks. Um, I tried making some other picks that I thought would be big game changers, and I took the Saints. The Packers were favorite. I don't want to hear that. I took the Panthers and the Saints and the Bucks. I went with some underdogs, hoping they could pull it out, and left me heartbroken. And allowed Matt to come out strong for the start of the season. It's a long season. This can obviously turn the tides quickly, especially when we get some guests in here for some guest picks. But Matt, let's start off with all of the losers. Broncos, Bears, who you taking in the game of dog shit? All right. I 100% agree with you. I have zero faith in the Bears as where they stand today. Maybe today they can give a little bit of life and a little bit of hope to their fan base. I am not a Bears fan and therefore have zero hope in them. Let's go on to the Vikings going into Bank of America Stadium, taking on the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte. What are your thoughts on this game? Who takes away the dub out of these two 0-3 teams? I've been thinking Minnesota all week as I've been kind of going through and thinking about this game. I really want to take the Panthers. I feel something in my gut that this could be the week that Bryce Young goes off and gains some confidence. So you know what? Mama didn't raise no sour puss. We're going with the Carolina Panthers, baby. Woo! Give me the Panthers winning by 2 scores. I'm taking them right now in Bank of America Stadium. Big win, 2-score game. It's over with 5 minutes left in the fourth. Come on, Bryce, baby. Give it to me. Let's get a win. Well, I hope you're wrong too. I need some big wins here. Here we go. All right, Matt. Miami going into the Bills. Can they win in Buffalo for the first time since 2016 today? What do you say? That's a bet I'm willing to take. I mean, I think they could put up 32, but the question is whose 30 will be more? I'm going to take Buffalo in this game over the Dolphins. I have faith in Josh Allen. I have faith in what the Bills do. And at the end of the day, I think they will find a way to win. That Buffalo crowd is no joke. Um, and there's still, the Bills are still the team to beat, even though the Dolphins are having the year that they're having. The Bills have not been dethroned yet. And I think Josh Allen comes out and reminds them of that today. The Baltimore Ravens go into Cleveland. What happens here with the best defensive team in the league? They've gotta fumble the ball and just hand it right back. It's like 1989 against the Broncos all over again. You can't do something good without throwing some shit in the trash, and, the problem is it's usually their own shit they're throwing in the trash. I think the Ravens will come out firing, but I don't think they can, hold up against the Browns defense. If the Browns can run the ball well enough to wear some clock down and their defense can make a couple key stops, I think they win this game at home. Matt, just looking at this, you picked the away team for every single game. You got some road warriors going out here. Are you going to keep the streak continuing here and pick the road team? Are you picking the road team for this next game as Washington goes into Philadelphia? 14. Yeah, that's a big win. I could definitely see that happening as well. Would like to see the Commanders get a dub here, but I think that's going to be a tall order for them. I'm taking the Eagles as well. Uh, Bacon Bits has some opinions on the matter as well. Okay, cool. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into New Orleans with Alvin Kamara. Obviously, it's a hostile environment down there in New Orleans. That dome gets loud. Those fans are excited. Mac, can Baker Mayfield go into New Orleans and put down the Saints? Yeah, I'm gonna go with you too. I'm here with you as well. I think the Bucks bounce back and get a win in New Orleans. New England going into Dallas. Yeah, it I'm with you there. I think it's just too much to overcome defensively for New England. I think the Dallas Cowboys defense holds the Patriots and gets the win. Matt, now we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers going into Houston on Monday Night Football. Who are you taking in this game? Matt, you took my dark horse pick because I was taking Houston, and I think it's a good pick. I think it's solid. I'm with you. I think CJ Stroud is coming into his own. If he can continue on this streak he is, then he will be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Some quick updates before we hop off. The Jaguars and the Falcons just kicked off and started the third quarter. Jaguars up in that 17-0. And then looking over at the Ryder Cup, Europe is now 14-10. They only need a half point left to win, as John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler both get half a points for their team. Victor Hovland gets a full point over Colin Morikawa. Patrick Kentley gets a full point over Justin Rose. Roy McIlroy with a full point over Sam Burns. Max Homa is up one. Um, Going into nope, they're done. Never mind. So he won the whole one there against Matt Fitzpatrick. Hatton beats Brian Harmon. Um, Brooks Koepka beats Ludwig Agberg. Justin Thomas, big matchup here. He's up one going into the 18th hole. Scotty Scheffler has already got a point there for them. Jordan Spieth has to come back on the 18th hole coming in and has to win to, well, I guess he has to win outright to give him a chance. Ricky Fowler down by 2 to Tommy Fleetwood through 16. And then we're tied in our last match between um, McTier and Clark. So not looking good for the U.S. as Europe only needs a half point to win. And I think they will get that half point in the Jordan Spieth match, because even if they tie, then it should, even if Jordan Spieth comes back and wins the 18th, they tie, then that's the half point for the Ryder Cup. So it looks like the Europeans will end up taking the Ryder Cup this year, and we will know that finally here in a couple minutes. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. You can catch us every single Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You can catch us at twitch.tv/Volzie, twitch.tv/BuckHeels. You can also catch us live on Facebook with the WV Sports Talk and YouTube, WV Sports Talk there. We appreciate you guys coming. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Keep showing up. Keep commenting. Give us y'all's picks for who's going to end up winning these games. See if you can beat the so-called self-proclaimed experts. That's us. But until next time, Volzie out. Enjoy your Sunday of football.